Young, what would I say to my younger self? Baby, we don't need nobody else. Yeah, we all we need, and God as a back, baby, yes, indeed. Young, what would I say to my younger self? Oh, baby, we don't need nobody else. Cause we all we need, and angels got a back, baby, yes.
Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the I Am Music podcast. This episode, I wanted to talk about, one of my favorite songs that I've done. Definitely in my top 10, maybe even my top 5. I mean, I would say probably closer to my top 5, but it's a very special song that I did. I want to say I at least wrote it, had to be at least 2011, around there, maybe 2012. I'm not 100% sure. But it was on my think third solo album, right? I was working on a different album. It's funny because I had done this solo album. My first solo album was about, I wanted to show that I wasn't just doing like just hip hop, right? It was like I think I had 3 songs of each, right? It was like I had like 3 hip hop songs. I forgot it was 3 hip hop songs in Spanish too. And then like rock hip hop. And then I had like some, I don't know, it was like 333, something like that. Um but then after that I did my Live Free or Die album, which is one of my favorite albums I've done. And then I was working on another album, but it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, so I worked on this other album called Live Free or Die Book 3, A Cultural Revolution, right? And it was funny cuz some people made a joke about, "Oh, what happened to album 2?" right? Cuz I skipped the book 2 cuz I didn't think it was time yet, right? So I went from Live Free or Die Book 1 to Live Free or Die Book 3. Anyways, this song made it on there, right? And this is one of the my favorite songs that I did, right? It's a song that I actually did, with my mom, right? And so how many people get to do that, right? But there's a whole backstory to that. So that's what I'm gonna get into, right? It's a song called Mexico Querido, and that's why, right? It was like I'm singing about my motherland because I was born in Mexico, and I'm singing about the motherland. And well, what better than to put your mom on a song that you're talking about the motherland, right? The person that you came from and the place that you came from, right? So anyways, you know, this song, what, and on episode 1 I talked about the 99-cent beats, right? So I actually did this song to a 99-cent beat, but it stayed with it. The beat was already perfect. It just went with it. And I took it to the studio, and even, the producer David Salas, he was like, "Yeah, it sounds dope." He didn't make the beat, right? This other guy had, and this other producer that went by Mike Al, right? Mike Al, he's the one that did it. And so let me go into the whole story of the Mexico Querido. When I was little, my mom used to record herself on cassettes, right? Like endless, because she had so many cassettes, like recording herself singing. So I think that's probably part of where I got it from, right? She was always singing to cassettes, this and that, right? Um, and it's funny because one day when I was young, I asked my mom, I was like, "Hey, mom, do you think I'll make it with this music thing?" And she looks me dead in the face and she's like, "Sorry, pero no," like that. And I was like, "What the?" And what could you do but laugh, right? Like, hey, there's a Mexican mom just like cold it like, straight. It's funny, right? Because she could be the most nurturing person, but she had this other side to her, and I think a lot of like you know, I mean, because later I had the same, right? I had a girlfriend that kind of did the same thing, right? But not like that. Not like she just like I saw the doubt in her face, and I was like, all right, cool, like enough said, right? Kind of thing. And she did kind of say, well, there's just a lot of competition, that kind of stuff, right? But as you hear in these songs, right? Like these songs were as good as can be. So there was never really doubt for me. It was just like, of course, who doesn't want to be supported by people they care about, right? So, anyways, it was funny, right? My mom. So that was kind of like, so that me, that's kind of how I got my revenge, right? It was like, I was like, all right, let me, and so let me tell you this whole story too about this song was that, at the time it was like it all lined up perfectly, like obviously I have a whole spiritual channel, a spiritual podcast, this and that. So the way it lined up was like everything was just perfect, right? That day, like I didn't work that day, my mom didn't work. And David Salas, who I would record with at the studio, he had told me, our money was really tight then, right? That's why I was buying 99-cent beats, obviously, right? But it was like, he was like, hey man, if you help me move, because I had this old, I had an Explorer, right? Back then. So it was like he needed help moving, right? From one house to another. So he was like, hey, if you help me move, I'll hook you up with like a free studio session. So I was like, hell yeah, because it was gonna cost me time. And I worked as a mover before, worked in tons of warehouses. So I was like, yeah, moving, no problem. I'll help you out, I mean, I would have probably helped them just to help them, but it was like, hey, I'll give you a free studio session. So, back then it would have been a couple $100, you know what I mean? Just because the amount of time it took for that song too, right? So, anyways, I got a whole, so it lined up, right? It was like meant to be. Like my mom was off that day, I was off that day. Um, I got a free. I was at that time. I was probably not having, and it was like the day after I wrote the song, right? It was like crazy the way it all lined up. I had just wrote the song the day before, and then everything he hits me up like probably the same day I wrote the song, like, hey man, you know, I I'll hook you up with the studio session, and I had just, I think I had just finished I was still focused like on the Live Free or Die album, right? Trying to promote it or something like that, right? Because I know this other album, the Live Free or Die Book 3, was pretty much written fast, right? So not to keep making the story longer, right? But it was just that's why, like I said, it's one of the most important songs. So, anyways, when we went to the studio, like I didn't let him show my mom no mercy, right? It was her first time recording in the studio, and I did it like in a way to have her fulfill that childhood dream, right? Or even as a young woman, right? She was always recording herself singing, so it was to help her fulfill that dream, right? Because I think a lot of moms, like you see it now, right, on singing competitions, moms that come, or like Susan Boyle, like she's over there like all older, and then she got to sing, and she hit some. So whatever. I took her to the studio to help her fulfill that dream, but then it was like when she wasn't hitting the notes right, I was like David Salas would look at me and I'd be like, nah. I was like, do you think it's good? Like, is that right take? And he's like, she could probably do it a little better. And I was like, I would tell him she was in that booth. I don't know how many takes I made her do, at least 30 or more takes, right? 30 to 50 takes. I was just like, but the funny thing about all that, right? So we recorded this song. Oh, well, actually, there's this other hilarious part to it. It was the only time ever someone, because there's some songs that I cuss like there's no tomorrow, right? Like cussing was going out of style or something. I just let me use every bad word in the dictionary. But it was like I was in the booth, and the songs in English and Spanish, right? So even like in one part where like every time I would say a bad word, she'd be like, she'd be like, like something I'm like hearing through the booth, like, what the hell? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not supposed to say nothing when I'm recording. But I was like, fine, I'll erase like this song didn't have bad words, but I think I did put just one bad word at the end, right? When like to be on the album on that once I released the album, there was one bad word that I left in there, right? Where I go, and in Mexico wasn't one mother gang, right? Originally I had left it bleeped out, but then I was like, I put it back in there, right? Uh, but oh yeah, like I would be like, que se quemen en el pinche infierno, and she was like, and then I'd be like, geez, all right, what's a different word? And then it was like, que se quemen en el triste infierno, right? Stuff like that. Like there was a lot of little bad words that she was just like, I was like, oh my god, like when. And just, because she was my mom, I changed it, right? I was like, fine, I'll change all the bad words, right? Except for the one where I was like, in Mexico wasn't one mother gang, right? But you hear it, right? Like the song. Okay, so let me go a little into the song. So, anyways, that was like one of my favorite, just the experience, right? I even had some footage. I don't even know back then what it would if the cell phones had. Yeah, they already had the cameras, right? So I don't know if I recorded it on a cell phone video or a actual video, but I had footage, even of my mom right there in the studio with me. I wish I still had that footage. I looked for it for a long time, right? Because it's priceless. And even then, right? I remember like Tupac's "Dear Mama," right? Like the way that, right? Like it didn't matter, like just like the way he sang about like, and even though you was a crack fiend, mama, like that love, right? Like that's part of my culture too, right? Like it didn't matter that my mom laughed in my face and said, "Nah, I don't think you'll make it." Like I still, so after that session, like that's it. She never had anything negative to say about the music, right? Like I get it. She didn't understand, right? Like she came from Mexico speaking Spanish. Like she didn't really know what the hip hop I did. So I never judged her on that, right? So, but now I got to do this song. After that, she was like, "Oh wow, like you're the real deal. Like you're professional. You're this and that." The hours we were in the studio after that, she respected my craft like 100%. Right? She understood how hard it is to record a song, all that. So after that, I was glad I did it for that. Even like for her to respect it. Like she had nothing but respect for what I did musically, right? And all that stuff, right? So it was a beautiful experience, and that was my way of doing it. Like even I don't know if that like the Eminem, for example, and it's not to, it's just different cultures, right? I got it, right? Like in like to us, just like, well, I can't say every, but I know like at least for Tupac, right? Like not to say he represents all black people, right? But it was like for him that was his thing, right? Like it didn't matter what his mom did, he still loved her. And to me, it didn't matter. Like in my culture, right? I still like we're very close to our families, right? So that's why that song. I mean, after I recorded that song, I'd be working in warehouses, right, loading boxes, and then sometimes I'd be like tired, man. I would be like, I don't got nothing left. And then that song would come on, and it's like I'd even get choked up with that song, like just hearing my mom's voice in that song, and it made me keep going. Like that. I wanted to, one day buy a house for my parents or this or that. You know what I mean? So that song was very special. It kept me even going. It would give me that boost of forget energy drinks, right? That was like an energy drink for me, right? That song, just working in a dirty ass warehouse, and then like well, I was trying not to cuss, but it's all good, and then just like that song comes on, and it give me chills. Like, bam, my eyes would get watery when I'd hear that song, right? For a long time, right? I don't know now, who knows, maybe right now when I play it, right? But I haven't heard it in a while, but that song was just special, right? And here's the other thing, and then I'll just play the song, and then I'll try to cut it because I know this is there's just so much details with this song, right? And I had already done a song like the other song that rivaled this one was, I did a song Revolucion with my niece and nephew on it. So that was like, and I'll make a whole video about that song because that song's really special too, right? But I had already done that song. So this song was yeah, I think I actually recorded this song before. I had that other song for a long time. So I'll definitely save it for another video. But so just to say in Mexico too, I think the Mexico Querido song, I think at that time they were barely starting to broadcast more and more about all the cartel violence in Mexico. So that's why I was like to me, Mexico was like my happy place, right? Like when we were little, I'd even tell my dad that like, oh, like why'd you bring us to the U.S.? I mean, here in the U.S., it was like especially even where we live, like there were gangs and everything. I remember the first time someone threatening to shoot me, I was like in freaking elementary, and it was like a mistaken identity. So it was crazy already experiencing this thing or people, being afraid and this and that, right? Like, and then we'd go to Mexico to like every year to visit family. And my grandparents lived on a ranch, and there's no police in the whole ranch and this and that. So it's funny, even that's one of the ways they would try to sell you like the religions, right? Like especially I know the Jehovah's Witnesses, right? They come knock on your door and, oh, don't you want it to be like this? And I'll be like, dude, I already see that. Like, that's where my grandparents live, right? What are you talking about? I don't gotta. That's why I would never you couldn't sell me that religion stuff because it was like this already exists. I've seen it. This is where my grandparents live. What do you mean we gotta? do all this thing you're saying, and then when we die and go to the heaven you're saying, that's when we get to see this. Nah, bro. Like this already exists. You ain't selling me this, BS, right? So that's how it was, right? I knew that we were already capable of creating this heaven on earth because I seen it. So that's the other thing, right? This Mexico querido, it was deep. That's what I was trying to say. Like, that's how I would like. I go like they showed you their ways and you showed you their trait. You showed them how did it go. They showed you their ways and they showed you their traits plus human trafficking all through your states. You know, and now it's so bad that I just stay away. Like, well, you'll hear it, right? But it was like when they were starting to broadcast it more, like, oh, this whole, and I was like, what the hell? And then, obviously it even moves into the towns, obviously, right? The rural areas. So all that stuff, right? What I used to see as paradise, like actual paradise, it was spreading more and more and it spread like wildfire. And even with music, right? I started seeing, I don't know if it had really started to be more mainstream, but even how they started promoting all the like the narco corridos and this and that. Like there was always those kind of stories and songs, like even Lamberto Quintero, right? All these old songs that already had that kind of, these kind of stories, right? But it was more like I even saw, right? Like you see the big now, right? I don't know if it was like there was just a lot of stuff starting, right? But even now how they glorified it, right? And I saw the same happening to our music that had happened like with hip hop, right? Like gangster rap and promoting the drugs, the killing, the this and that. So I was like, I was trying to always get ahead of it, right? I was always trying to get ahead of like, oh man, like I want to show like more, right? Like I think that's when I really started getting more into the cultural thing, right? Because I went from gangster rap to more cultural stuff after, right? Like, sometimes things would still slip in there, right? But then I started trying to teach like things. That's why the Cultural Revolution album, right? It was about, and I started noticing that people were starting to get in touch with their culture. Like I think around then maybe I had already been invited to my first like the spring ceremony, right? Like the Mexica spring ceremony. And I was like, oh wow, I got my eyes filled with tears because I went and there were like, I don't know, like tons of like, I went to this 2-day event and it was like so many like danzantes aztecas, right? Aztec dancers or grupos danzantes that had came from up north, had came from south, it was in LA, so they had came from all over. And I was like, oh wow, like we're here, like we're still here, right? Like we're still following our culture, right? Like I didn't know, right? Like damn, I wish I would have known, right? I would have been a part of this since before. So it was, I don't know if I had already started working on the Cultural Revolution album or that even helped push me to keep going. I think I probably already had. So it was already like I knew it and then manifesting it in a way again, like well, not even having to manifest it, but just talking about it and then being able to connect with it, right? Oh yeah, because I think well and then I'll play the song and then I'll end it. But I think even that I remember I had made shirts for this album, right? And one of them had like that thing that said a cultural revolution. I remember going to a powwow, and even that this lady, one of the vendors at the powwow, she's like, "Oh, cultural revolution, that's us." And I was like, "Huh?" And then I said, "Oh, like I think I asked her what tribe she was from, and she said like from Mexico, and I was like, oh wow. I was like, okay, I didn't know like we were all integrated in these powwows too, right? And that's my first time. Then I would be talking and like half the vendors were like, of Mexican descent, right? Or Mexica descent. They actually were aware of what tribes they came from, right? Because like I always tell people, they did a better job over there of making us forget our indigenous ancestry. Obviously, here most people know what tribes they come from, but down there they really did a good job of trying to wipe out that memory from us, right? Of the tribes we come from, right? But that's why the Cultural Revolution, more people are starting to become aware of that, or they have been already for like you know, on a bigger scale for the last decade or more, right? And that's when I released the album 2013 that this is on, I believe 2013. Yeah. So, and it was funny because out of all days back then, I picked 8/8, and then one of my most like the people that inspired me, Zapata, right? Emiliano Zapata. His birthday was on 8/8, and I barely found that out years after I had already released the album. For some reason, I don't know. I just liked, I think, the 8/8. I picked that day. But out of all things, that happened to be like, the one of Mexico's great revolutionaries, right? Zapata. That was actually his birthday. So I was like, damn, I was like the synchronicity, right? I was glad that I released the album A Cultural Revolution on 8/8, and then one of the my heroes from, from Mexico was that was his birthday, right? 8/8. So I think that's it, right? I'm gonna play the song right here. And then I think I already explained what it's about, right? Maybe I'll say a little something at the end. So on that note, check it out. This is Mexico Querido featuring my mom, right? So I mean, damn.
México querido,
México,
México lindo,
mi
tú
amor,
eres porque vivo, eres mi destino.
todavía pienso en ti.
México querido,
Nunca te voy a
México
olvidar.
lindo, eres porque vivo.
I'll never forget you.
Tú eres porque vivo.
I used to dream of going back. Goodbye USA,
Bye.
you were my heart, my love, my happy place. México querido, ¿qué pasó? El perro mundo desgraciado te violó. Esta canción es para ti y nadie nunca va a saber tú sufrir. Todos corruptos de chota a gobierno, que todos se quemen en el triste infierno. Desde el invierno a primavera, eres el país más lindo con tu bandera. Sangre azteca, alma pura, que Dios te bendiga por esta criatura. Compadres lindos, buenos amigos, y nada puede compararse a tu himno o a tu grito. Ahí en septiembre, eres para siempre, eres para siempre.
México querido, México lindo, tú eres porque vivo, eres mi destino. México querido, México lindo, eres porque vivo. Tú eres porque vivo.
I never seen no people so damn kinda so polite.
Never.
Yeah, I'm talking about Mexico, alright.
right.
When I was just a kid, man, how I loved it.
Yeah.
Then came all of this here bullshit and thugging.
Outta it.
You think these are Mexicans? You got no idea.
No idea.
Cause the real Mexicans were kinda like Pancho Villa.
Yeah.
We don't know quit and we don't know coward. We didn't slang shit, we work hard for hours.
hard.
And worked hard for hours with blisters in our hands.
Yeah.
And in Mexico wasn't one motherfucking gang.
Not
My
one.
people had heart and my people were tribal.
Yeah.
We fought off the enemy like folks in the Bible.
That's right.
So here's my recital with just a few words for the country that owns my soul and gave me birth.
Yeah.
Mexico querido, I love you forever. I'll keep you in my thoughts like someone's lost true
México
love.
querido, México lindo, tú eres porque vivo, eres mi destino. México querido, México lindo, eres porque vivo. Tú eres porque vivo.
See, you're the reason that I live, the reason that I breathe. So why did they have to take you from me?
Why?
They showed you their ways and taught you their traits.
No.
Plus human trafficking all through your state.
No.
They taught you to hate and they taught you to rape.
Why?
And now it's so bad that I just stay away. With tears on my face and tears on my pillow, I put my head down cause I feel this disgrace. Like these are my people, this can't be right. When I was young it was strange to even hear about a fight. Now dead bodies laying dead in the street with their heads chopped off for everyone to see. Damn, it can't be, but the latter is true. I will forever carry this thought of you. You were so beautiful, you were so peaceful. Now the media reports just say you are evil.
México querido, México lindo, tú eres porque vivo, eres mi destino. México querido, México lindo, eres porque vivo. Tú eres porque vivo.
Man, so that was Mexico Querido. That song is so freaking good. Not to like toot my own horn, but Well, just the passion, right? And probably my mom being in the studio brought it to a whole nother level. Cause I'm even like, man, just so even it's funny, right? Because I'm making this in September, and I say con tu grito ahí en septiembre. I'm talking about the Mexican Revolution, the Mexican Independence Day, right? September 16th. So that's coming up as I'm making this. So I'm talking about that, right? They always, I'm not gonna go into the whole Cinco de Mayo thing, but September 16th is Mexican Independence Day. It's a amazing story as well, right? That whole thing, it was like, I don't know. Now in hindsight, I don't know. I'll have to look more into the story, right? Because it was a priest that says that, you know, this priest, I guess, had a conscience, right? Because we know, like, I know there's good priests out there and stuff like that. So, I don't know if God actually touched this man's conscience and heart and I mean it's cool because he had my brother's name anyways, Miguel, right? But he gave the grito like to go up in arms and like basically I think like overthrow the government, right? Like to rise up, right? And I think he said something about the bad government, right? The el mal gobierno, and then boom, there was I guess a revolution, right? Or people rose up, right? So that's where the grito came because it was actually there was a grito, right? A call to arms, right? So in a way, that's kind of what this song represented too, right? Not so much, not like the Revolucion song that I released later. That was more like a call to like literally it's saying Revolucion in the song. But this song is like it kind of had that essence to it, right? Mexico querido. And also I say when I talk about they showed you their ways and taught you their traits, plus human trafficking all through the states, they taught you to hate and they taught you to rape. I don't know if you could say rape on YouTube, but hopefully what I know some people just say grape, right? But I say that because that's a real important part of our culture. The fact that, there's this book that shows like a Spaniard even wrote about it, right? He was like, "What the hell? Like women and children could travel safely through the empire because when they got to when the Spaniards got to that, to the Tenochtitlan and all that, um, they saw that there were roads that pretty much connected, like how they say all roads lead to Rome. Like we already had that, right? And these Spaniards are writing how it was more sophisticated, the marketplaces, everything, right? And so the fact that someone wrote that, like, damn, like women and children could travel safely because it shows that where they came from, like because in Spain they probably raped their women, and I guess children couldn't travel safely. So it showed, like that's what I'm saying. They showed you their trades, they showed you their ways, right? Because even that. So this book called Broken Spears, I always recommend it to people because if you look at that book, it's like that's the sad part, but I guess that's what gave it more validity, right? Validity is that two Aztecs that were alive, that were there, that witnessed the whole thing happen. I guess by the time they had whatever, and the Spaniards were teaching them how to write, they documented it, and then it matched with stories that a Spaniard was writing, was journaling down, right? So they matched the stories. Like here are three accounts from three different people of what happened, with the initial attack, right? When the Spaniards started kind of trying to overthrow, and it's sad because, the only reason was because the Spaniards would have lost, like they were chasing them, right? But then, everyone started getting sick. So that to me is like, it's crazy, right? Just the fate, the whatever happened already, right? So that's how fate is fate, right? Because unfortunately, they should have just obviously to me it's like they should have just taken out the Spaniards when they got there. But the kind-hearted, good-hearted people that I guess we are, is that's you know what I mean? But anyways, I digress. So because even reading that book, I remember like every couple pages, not a long book, but just knowing like it felt back then too when I was really, because that's when I made that album. It filled my heart with rage to read these atrocities, right? Like how they welcome them in and everything. Like it even like the one of the Aztecs that were writing down or whatever, Mexica or Aztecs, whatever, that were writing down this. We're talking about how they remember seeing, like, they told them to put away their weapons, and then because they wanted to have a ceremony, and when they were having the ceremony and the drummers were hitting the drums and everything, then the Spaniards came, started chopping off arms. People were tripping on their intestines as they were trying to run. So it's very graphic. They were able to, that's why this book is one of the best books to know, like, what had happened, right? In that way. Like, it was it's called Broken Spears, right? I think, I don't know, Lanzas Quebradas or something. Um, I got the English version. Oh, and even that, it was a very inspirational book. Like, I know it was translated to many languages, and people, that was one of the first books when people were like, oh wow, someone's telling their own story, right? It's not just like through the eyes of whoever colonized or conquered, right? It was like, so I know they translated into Japanese, like, so there, all these different countries were saying good things about this book because they were like, oh wow, this is a real historical book, like someone that was there. Like, they even say that, like, I think one of the people that, when they do the revised editions, they even say, like, even the story of Jesus out, like, they say it was written, like, decades after, or I don't know, hundreds of years after. They say that this and that. So there's like, that's why it's even, for the people that have that argument, it's kind of easy to say, oh well, this is less credible. But with this, can't nobody deny it, because it was written within 7 years after that happened, right? Uh, and boom, they gave these detailed accounts of what they remembered, and even here's the Spaniard journaling and everything, and it went, it coincided with what the two Aztecs had written about, right? That they saw. But anyways, I know I went off into a whole, see, like, obviously, like, that's how important this song was. Again, right? Like, I didn't write this song just to yap at the wind. It was like, I was very immersed in learning about my culture when I made this whole album, right? The Cultural Revolution. So it's just like how I said in episode 1 about the It's All Spiritual, right? I was really walking that walk. The same with this Mexico Querido song, right? And the whole Cultural Revolution album. I was really immersed in learning about my people, my culture, the people I come from, all this stuff, right? Even beginning my journey going to the ceremonies, right? Going to the native ceremonies. Um, so all that stuff, right? So yeah, let me see what else did I miss out? Just that, right? So that's why I even put that in the song, right? I wanted to remind people, like, this was not our people originally, right? Like, we, even that, just seeing that in a book that, like, that we had, in all, like, how they say, all roads lead to Rome. Like, there were all these roads that connected it to the capital, right? Um, in the Aztec Empire. And I know it wasn't like they were perfect, because I know they did punk like all these other tribes for, like, tribute and this and that, according to what, we know of history. But uh at least that, knowing that women and children traveled safely, and that a Spaniard was like, what the hell? Like, this is unbelievable, right? Like they even wrote that down. They made it a point to write that down. And they made it a point to write that it was like more sophisticated than even, what was it? I think at the time Constantinople was like over there in Rome. So even though we were more civilized, really more organized than who they try to say was the greatest, like, empire and this and that, Rome, right? So it was good. It's good to just learn things about the people you come from, and cultural things, right? So I think I'll end it with that. But like I said, right, this was one of my most, like, definitely probably top 5 songs, just because the whole thing, with my mom, how many people get to make a song with their, and it felt like I was able to give her that, right, to be like a childhood dream, right? So that was priceless, right? There's nothing. And then the fact that right, I did it on a 99-cent beat, so it was like the heavens lined up for me to be able to record this song, basically for 99 cents, right? And just helping someone move. So whatever the gas I spent to help David Salas move, and that was it. So I think I'll end it with that. I know I talked for a long time. Thank you. Like I said, I'll be doing interviews soon, right? As I'm making this, I'm not gonna go into all that, but I'll be doing more I'll be doing some interviews soon, and obviously I have tons of stories with these songs, right? That are very special that I've written over the years, right? So I'll end it there. Thank you so much, and I'll be back with another episode soon. Peace.